What's up guys, Wizard of Ors here, and today I want to discuss how I truly believe Onigashima originally had the legendary fish fruit. There's a good amount of evidence that backs it up, and I think it all just makes too much sense. I've already discussed this a bit towards the end of my Kaido video, but I also wanted to make a whole video on it to get the word out. Also, sorry for the long wait on this video, and yes, me and Preach are combining channels for multiple reasons, in case you haven't heard. I'm glad to be working with him from here on out, and we've got some good videos planned for you guys. Now with all that being said, let's get into it. I'll be explaining my evidence for my beliefs with parallels, wordplay, and foreshadowing. First of all, the biggest and most obvious clue to this theory would be Ryugu Palace in Fishman Island. If you look at the Fishman Island castle, it is the exact same dragon as the one that Kaido has. This shows that Kaido's dragon did exist in the Void Century and had a huge significance to the world as well. The exact translation to Ryugu Palace would be Dragon Imperial Palace. I believe this is based off Japanese folklore, but I'll get more into that in a bit. So now you might say, yeah, the Fishman Island castle does resemble Kaido's devil fruit, but how does this mean that Onigashima had the fruit as well? Well, the castle proves that Onigashima, whom I refer to as Ors the First, had the fish fruit as well, because if you look at the top of the castle, there are Ors horns. There's Ors horns right below where the dragon is, which shows that the dragon has some ties to the Oni race. The horns are also on top of a palace, which is called Dragon Palace. The whole idea of Ryugu Palace is another big hint to Ors the First having the legendary devil fruit. This castle is obviously based off of the Japanese legend of Ryugujo, which was an undersea castle for the dragon god Ryujin. In this folktale, there are even characters like Princess Orihime and Waratsumi, showing that Oda did use it for a reference. Ryugujo was a palace for the dragon god Ryujin. What fish do you think was associated with this specific Japanese legend? Well, according to Japanese legend, the fish associated with the undersea castle and dragon god was the oarfish. Oarfish. Ors fish. Do you see where I'm going with this? Oarfishes are known to be the messengers for this palace. In One Piece, Ryugu Palace could be associated with Ors who had the fish fruit, just like how the oarfish is associated with it in the real Japanese legend. Another thing that you may have not known about Ryujin is that he is also known for being a dragon that can also turn into a human form. This works very well in One Piece with him being a Zoan devil fruit. I don't find it a coincidence that the Ryugu poneglyph is the first time we hear about Joy Boy, and when Robin discusses Joy Boy for the first time, it's on Ryugu Palace. Oda is definitely trying to tell us that Joy Boy, Ryugu Palace, and the dragon are connected. The next hint of Ors or Onigashima having the fish fruit has to do with Kaido. From recent chapters, many people have speculated that Kaido thinks he's Joy Boy or actually might be Joy Boy. Well, I'm here to explain to you that Kaido is just a microcosm representation of the actual Joy Boy. According to many sources, Kaido in Japanese translates to strong kid or Joy Boy. I wonder why. Well, Kaido is basically what Joy Boy was 800 years ago, just a much worse, weaker, and shorter version. Kaido is an Oni with the fish fruit, just like how the actual Joy Boy may have been the exact same thing, just a lot taller of course. Kaido also seems to know a lot about Joy Boy more than anyone else that we've seen thus far. So maybe he specifically went to live in Onigashima because he thought it was Joy Boy. Remember, Rocks could have told him something about the Ors or Oni race since his Jolly Roger had an Oni on it. He may have also gone there to find more on his Oni race. He seems to be obsessed with his race, and going straight to Onigashima makes perfect sense for his character. Onigashima holds a lot more of history to the world than most realize. Remember that he also changed the name of this mini island to Onigashima, which puts up the question, what was the original name of the island? The original name of Onigashima would probably spoil a lot of things and is probably very important to the Void Century. There are theories that think that Onigashima's original name was actually Rugashima. The reason people think this is because in early concept sketches of Frankie's Frenosuke, Onigashima was referred to as Rugashima. And well, what does Rugashima translate to? Well, it would translate to Dragon Island instead of Oni Island. Maybe Onigashima is also the piece of the One Piece that Big Mom was talking about. In the recent chapter of 1040, while she is falling to her loss, she consciously asks Roger if some of the One Piece is in Wano country. It's kind of ironic that she thinks this as she's falling from a piece of the One Piece, or at least a huge connection to it. I think it's obvious that the giant Oni head has a ton of significance due to the fact that it's around the Wano area. I also know it's important because it has a poneglyph in it. The Kazuki clan don't just place poneglyphs anywhere, they seem to place them on the most important locations and islands. I can't wait to find out what the poneglyphs read after the raid is over. This is, of course, if everything goes as planned. Some other ideas for the name of Onigashima could be something like Joy Boy Island, or maybe Skull of Joy, or I don't know, but I hope it's at least something crazy and unexpected. I personally believe that Onigashima was Joy Boy, but even if you don't believe that, it's still hard to deny the fact that it's important to the Void Century. Going back to Big Mom, she also calls the fruit being legendary, while she tells Kaido how she gave him the fruit at God Valley. Let's just say it definitely would be a legendary fruit if it was owned by the biggest legend in all of One Piece. Another little hint that Onigashima may have had the dragon fruit is in Punk Hazard. The panel right before we see the dragon, we see a giant Oni head. The fact that these are put back to back makes me think that Onigashima's head has a connection to dragons. Even another hint could be how the character named Monkey D. Dragon has oars as his Jolly Roger. Not just that, but he also has a modeled sea dragon throughout his ship that looks like the fish fruit. If you want to see more on Monkey D. Dragon, then I recommend checking out more of my videos. This pretty much wraps up most of the evidence as to why I believe Onigashima had the fish fruit, and now let me tell you how this is the key to the Void Century. Now with everything explained as to why I think Onigashima was the original user of the legendary fish fruit, let me talk about why this is so important to the world of One Piece and how it all makes perfect sense. We already know that Oars' name is the Continent Pooler. What if when Moria and Robin called him this, the legend wasn't actually about the oars at Thriller Bark, but of his father, Oars the First. In case you're new to this Oars the First theory, I call him that because according to Oars Jr., he's actually Oars the Third, which would make the Oars in Thriller Bark Oars the Second, and lastly, I'd assume that Onigashima is Oars the First. I also explained how I believe Oars the First is most likely the Sun God and Joy Boy. Assuming all of this is true, this would make Kaido's devil fruit the fruit of an actual god. This also goes along with the idea that the dragon is based off a Japanese god and how the people of Wano think Kaido is a god. Remember how I said earlier that Kaido is a microcosm of Oars, and both of them being known as gods goes along with it as well. Now I'm not sure if Zoan fruits change their sizes as the size of the user changes, but can you imagine if that's the case and then the size of the dragon while having the user of Oars? Imagine a dragon flying through the sky so big that its length never seems to end. I'm not sure if this will be the case, but I just think it's a really cool idea. Even if this doesn't happen, imagine the hybrid form of Onigashima and a dragon. I think that'll look so dope and be damn near unstoppable as well. Now that I've given you the picture in your head of how it would be if Onigashima had Oars' devil fruit, let me tell you how this is the key to the geography of the whole world and to the whole history of One Piece. In my first video, I've already talked about this, so I'll be reclaiming similar things to what I once said. To start off, I believe that the whole world may have been one single continent before the Void Century. This is a common theory, and the evidence is that the world government's castle is called Pangaea Castle, and that the whole world is spread out in islands and in a very inorganic way. The world government's logo also seems to be Mary Joy's connecting the four seas with a bridge to it, which is what they are currently doing. We see the bridge being built for centuries when Robin isn't Tequila Wolf. Why would the world government want everything connected to each other? Well, maybe they want that because it'll make it easier to travel in a world like One Piece where there's a red line and strange navigation. With easier accessibility to travel, the world government can rule the world much easier. They could have taken over everything centuries ago instead of having some parts of the world ruled by pirates. They probably want to rule over one piece of land, just like how the world may have been in one piece before the Void Century. Now you may say, well, what does Pangaea have to do with Oars? Well, since Oars is known as the Continent Pooler, I believe he pulled apart this single supercontinent and spread it out as islands throughout the whole world. With the dragon fruit, he flew islands across the world and across the Grand Line. This would explain a lot as to why there's islands with different habitats placed throughout the world. This would also explain the theory of the all blue existing. Maybe this is also why the log posts have to exist. Log posts lead you to the next island almost if they are magnetic. Each island may have a similar magnetic force since all the islands were once connected to each other. Another thing that I have claimed before is that I believe the name of the New World is called that because it is the New World. The New World as in the new version of the world or new geography of the world. The old world would have been Pangea, making the new world, if that makes sense. Ors did this to save the world and his allies from being ruled by the celestial dragons. He allowed his allies in Wano to have natural border protection and the best resources. He spread the islands all around the seas so only men with the strongest will can find the One Piece. It would also make sense as to why Joy Boy is the only one who knows where the One Piece is, since he created the geography himself and placed it on an island that only he knows. Without this geography, One Piece wouldn't be known as the Pirate Journey series that it is. Anyways, this pretty much wraps up my theory. Let me know down in the comments what you think about it. Please remember to like and subscribe if you like One Piece videos like this one, and remember to have a great day.